In today's video, we're going to be going over the cars in GTA 5 that have the best sounding exhaust systems in the entire game. In the past, we made videos about the best sounding turbocharged cars in the game, and also the best sounding supercharged cars in the game. And I said if you guys enjoyed those videos, we'd make this one. So here we are today. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. First up on this list is the Jugular. In my opinion, the Jugular is one of the nicest sounding cars in the game. Not only does the exhaust system sound really good, but it's also a very good car in general. It's the car that I mainly use in certain stunt races whenever you have to go off-roading with a sports vehicle. I think it's the best one. Its handling rating is literally like 100, which is very, very good. Another great thing about the exhaust system, you guys can hear a little bit of a backfire when it does drive and you let off the gas a little bit, and adding the turbo into it, the car just sounds really, really great, and I would highly suggest you guys buy one because not only does it sound good like I said, but it also performs extremely well. Next up on this list is the XA21.
Too close.
I have to admit, out of every single supercar in this game, none of them even compare to the sound that this one makes. First off, the exhaust sounds amazing. It also performs pretty well, and honestly, it was one of my favorite cars when it did come out because it was just different from practically everything else. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's one of the first cars in the game to actually have a really different exhaust note from some of the more basic cars that we had once the game actually came out. You guys know what I'm talking about. You go and drive one of the older cars, they all practically sound the same. Like the Adder sounds exactly like a car that you could find on the street. So they all kind of sound the same. But personally, the XA21 just sounds amazing, and that backfire, the little spits you can hear at the end just sound amazing, and everything about this car is just pretty great. I do wish it did perform a little bit better in races, but I still have to admit it's a very nice car and it sounds great. Next up on this list is the Apocalypse Nightmare Future Shock ZR380. This car, though, I do have to admit, it is more like bottom tier on this list. In the entire game, though, I think it sounds pretty great, but on this list, like I said, it's probably lower down. But I do have to admit, the one thing I love about this car is just the exhaust note. That's the one thing I like about the exhaust, is just the sound that it makes. It's not too crazy, and it's not too basic either. It's just kind of in the middle, and it sounds really nice, especially when you add the turbo tuning onto this car. Then it makes it sound really, really clean, really well put together. And in terms of the body styling of it, I think it's a really great car. I do wish we had just a normal version of a 370Z in GTA 5, but honestly, this one looks pretty cool too. It's got some crazy body kits and everything. And if you guys do want this exact one I have, this is the Apocalypse one. It does not have any spikes or anything like that. I think it looks the cleanest out of them all, but let me know what you guys think down below. Next up, we got the Elegy Retro Custom. If you were wondering, yes, this car is completely stock, which is one of the reasons why I love it. You don't have to put a single upgrade on it and it'll sound amazing, which is why it's also the #1 sounding turbocharged car in the game. If you guys are wondering about that turbocharged video I made, this one just slapped. The sound of it is amazing. You don't even have to put turbo tuning on it because it comes stock with turbos. And just the exhaust note, guys, you heard that backfire. Like, it sounds amazing. That's why it's literally my favorite car in the game in terms of looks, sound, and in terms of performance. It's honestly not amazing, but it's still pretty decent. It's a great car and it sounds amazing. Next up is the Drift Tampa. Take a listen to the regular Tampa, then to the Drift version. If you guys didn't already notice, these two cars are the exact same, except one is heavily modified. The Drift Tampa obviously is the one that's modified. The Tampa is just pretty basic. But you heard the sound of the Tampa, then you heard the sound of the Drift Tampa. The Drift Tampa, I think, is a great example of just a pure straight pipe. We really don't have many cars in this game that sound like it. The only other one that I could think of is one other one on this list that we'll go over in just a minute, and then also the Hot Ring Saber car, which honestly just did not make it onto this list. Very, very close, but still just did not make the cut. I think this Drift Tampa sounds a lot nicer. The only issue is it doesn't really drift all that well, but I still think it's a pretty nice car. It reminds me of Dom's car from Fast and the Furious, so I think it's a pretty cool car. Next up is the Liberator and the Marshall monster trucks. The reason why I put this one in this video is not because the exhaust sounds amazing, is because it's literally a straight pipe right from the headers of the engine, which I thought was just really, really cool. There's like barely any vehicles. I think there might be 3 in the whole game, including these 2 monster trucks that actually have this, and I just thought they were really, really cool. They don't sound like that crazy at all, but I still think they look pretty damn cool just because it shoots out flames literally from 4 different exhaust pipes directly from the engine inside these monster trucks, and they're actually pretty fun to drive around. You guys should be able to get the Liberator on Independence Day every single year, unless you guys have already been playing and you just decided not to buy it. I'm pretty sure you're still able to buy it right now. I'm not 100% sure, but they're honestly pretty cool vehicles. Check out the Marshall monster truck as well, which you can most likely pick up for free if you transferred from last generation. Next up are the F1 cars. Now this one is just my opinion, and I guarantee everybody watching this video will have a different opinion on this, but my 2 favorite F1 cars in terms of the exhaust note would be the DR1 and the R88. In terms of the best F1 car, it's obviously the BR8. That is the best one in the entire game in terms of just speed, performance, and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of the exhaust sound, I do love the sound of these 2 cars that I did just mention. They both sound pretty great. But in all honesty, all 4 of these vehicles sound amazing and they all look really cool. In terms of customizations, obviously the newer ones are a lot better than the older ones, and I think the newer ones just look a lot more modernized, and I personally like them a lot more than the older ones that we got. But I do have to admit, the R88 still does sound really, really clean along with the DR1. Let me know which is your favorite F1 car down below in the comments. Next up on this list is going to be the Kamada. The Kamada is a car just like the Jugular and just like the XA21. In terms of which one of those 3 sounds the best, I'd have to go with the XA21 sounds the best, then the Jugular, then the Kamada. Or honestly, the Jugular could be first. Honestly, they all sound really, really great. And in terms of the upgrades for all 3 of those vehicles, they're all pretty amazing. The XA21 doesn't really have too many crazy ones in terms of even spoilers, but I still think all 3 of those cars sound amazing and look really cool and perform very, very well. The Kamada, though, definitely has a very nice exhaust note, including the backfire as well. Just an amazing car. And finally, the last car on this list is the Gauntlet Classic and Classic Custom. This car definitely does not have the best sounding exhaust system in the entire game, but there's a few great things about it. Number 1 is the supercharger whine, and it sounds pretty decent. It's not that loud, but I still think it sounds pretty nice. The idle in these cars, the classic version of course, and the classic custom, sound amazing. Of course, that's not the exhaust system, that's more the actual engine. But in terms of the exhaust, it just sounds like instant power. Like the second you rev it, boom, it's literally at the highest RPM it could be at. That's one thing I just love about the car. It's really nice, and obviously it's a Challenger, an older version of it, and I think that's pretty cool as well. In terms of the car though, it's also very, very nice, and upgrading it to the custom version will allow you to upgrade it a lot more with tons of different capabilities in terms of literally everything from the livery to the grille to the rear bumper and all that kind of stuff. So I would highly suggest buying the classic version and upgrading it to the custom variant for all of those cool upgrades. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up the video for today. If there's any other cars that you guys think should have been on this list, be sure to comment them down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the video, and I will catch you guys in the next one.